start.
Continue.
Today is July 2nd, 2021. My name is Chelsea Lee,
I'm Helen Pu.
and we are here
That's
with
yeah,
Mr. G Kwok, and we will be
Sequoia.
conducting a full-length virtual interview. So thank you so much for being here today, and let's get started. Um, let's start with your early life. Where and when were you born?
I was born in Hong Kong in 1941, just the time of the Japanese War.
How would you describe the household and neighborhood you grew up in?
Uh, when I was little, uh, my grandfather was doing pretty well, so we live in a very nice neighborhood.
Yeah. So, what were your parents' occupations?
I was raised by my grandfather and my grandmother during the war. My father and my mother was in mainland China, so I didn't get to know them until after the war.
And what would you say were some of the values that your parents emphasized during your upbringing?
Uh, they have very little influence upon me because I got to know them after the war, and I spent most of my early childhood with my grandparents.
So, you mentioned that during your early childhood, it was during the war. How would you say that influenced your? Do you have recollection of that at all?
When I was about 4 years old, this, the war concluded, and my grandfather uh, bought at that time we bought apartments in Hong Kong, and we lived in a very good area. So it was a happy childhood until when I was 9, then my grandfather died.
Do you have any siblings?
I have 2 older sisters and 1 younger sister.
Okay. And then were they also born in Hong Kong?
Well, I got to know them after the war. So I spent very little time with them really, because during the high school years I was extremely busy. So we spent very little time. And right after graduating from the high school, I left Hong Kong.
I see. Did you leave alone or with your family?
I came here by myself, one person,
Wow.
with $2,000.
Oh, wow. I guess we can circle back to that later, but how about your parents? How did they meet?
I have no idea. think, according to what my grandparents told me, they married when they're very young in the Chinese fishing village. I think my mother was 14 or my father was 16 or something like that. I just heard it from my grandfather.
I see. Yeah. So when did you move to the US? Or is that where you moved?
I left Hong Kong in 1959 by myself and came to this country.
I see. And then what made you move to the US?
Well, I went to a Christian kindergarten, Christian elementary school, in Christian or Baptist high school in Hong Kong. And in 1950s, a lot of graduates from the high schools in Hong Kong, they want to come to the United States after high school graduation because there was just only one university in Hong Kong, and it's extremely difficult to get in there. Practically, you have to well prepared to take the examination, be able to go to the Hong Kong University. So most of the high school graduates who want to come to the United States or Canada or Australia, the British colonies.
Yeah. And what were your first experiences in the US like? Did you have any challenges like the language?
Yes, a lot of language problem at the beginning. Uh, I went to a Chinese high school, Puicheng, and we're very strong in mathematics, chemistry, and physics, but we're very weak in the English, especially the conversation.
Mhm.
We'll kind of barely make it through the interviews in the U.S. consulate. Yeah.
I see. And what were some like cultural shocks that you experienced?
Well, there was nothing really shocking me. I just have to learn the language and be able to communicate with the teacher and students at Wake Forest University.
Mhm.
Because when I first came, it took me a while to get used to the American way of speaking. If they speak too fast, I won't be able to follow them.
Mhm. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I took the English 1 3 times.
Mm.
I keep failing it, and the dean of the college allowed me to drop it without penalty, and took it the second time and failed, and took the third time. I got a D, barely passed. So I had to struggle very hard to go to the English 1 2 3 4. That was extremely difficult at that time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just mentioned you attended Wake Forest University for your undergraduate degree. What
Yes,
was your major?
I graduated with double majors in chemistry and mathematics, with distinction in mathematics. And also, I was extremely interested in computer because Wake Forest University get a grant from the National Science Foundation in 1962, and we had the IBM 1620. I was the first student who were allowed to touch that computer to play tic-tac-toes, and I was so afraid they would do something to me. And Professor Dr. Saw said, "Don't be afraid, it won't bite you."
Yeah. So what made you choose these majors specifically? Like what interested you about these?
Well, as I told you, I went to Puicheng High School, and the school is very strong in chemistry, physics, and mathematics. So we are way, in fact, we are about 1 year ahead of the college level when I came. So in my freshman year, I was straight A because the professor was so amazed the Chinese student can mix 100 when everybody is flunking the chemistry, the mathematics, and I was top of the class. As a matter of fact, one of my professors wrote to the dean of the college saying, never seen somebody so bright in chemistry. In fact, he helped me get a scholarship later on at Wake Forest.
Wow. Earlier you mentioned you came to the US with only $2,000. Um,
Yes,
so did you have to work while also going to school? And what was that like balancing everything?
yes. In the first year, I had no problem because it does not cost $2,000 a year. But later on, in the second year, because I didn't make much money in the summer, 1960, so I ran out of money. Flat,
So,
broke, zero.
oh, wow. Yeah. So what did you do then? Did you look for jobs to do while you were attending school?
Well, I pray. I'm a Christian. I pray hard and say, "Oh God, what am I going to do?" So somehow it clicks, and I went to the dean's office and talked to the dean of the college. At that time, the dean of the college called Dr. Alan Dyer. And I said, "Dr. Dyer ran out of money." And he said, "Why do you come to me? You ran out of money." And he was silent for a few minutes, and I was very embarrassed. And they decided, okay, I'm going to find somebody else to help me then. So as soon as I want to stand up, he said, oh, wait a minute, sit down. I got something in the drawer for you. So he opened up the drawer, pick up $10. He said, this is $10 I got yesterday from Herbie's mother. Herbie's one of the Jewish boy. His mother come from New York to visit him and gave Dr. Dai $10 to give somebody who really need money. I said, well, I need money. And so he gave me that $10. And he called an old lady downstairs in the cafeteria, Mrs. Owen, and say, he's a Chinese guy who need a job in the cafeteria. So I got $10 to eat and also go cafeteria to help put the desserts on the cafeteria. Is a food line. So I bring the stuff from the ice box and put it on top of the ice for the people to pick it up on the way to pay for the food. So I got a job in the cafeteria. And I continue my study.
Yeah. Did you enjoy your experience at Wake Forest University? And I guess what was your favorite and least favorite part of undergrad?
I enjoy my college life, even though I don't have much money, but some of the people over there are very, very nice to me, especially the Southern Baptists in my church, and also the professors, they are very friendly and very helpful. Give you a few examples. On Sunday morning, they have the deacons come to the campus, pick up the kids, to go to the Sunday school and prepare the donuts, the coffee at lunchtime. At least one of the deacons or American families of the church will invite me to their home for fried chicken or something good to eat. And then in the evening, the deacons of the Norwood Baptist Church go to campus and pick up the students to go to the college student fellowship. So on Sunday, I have no problem with 3 meals. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So you met your wife in September of 1967 at Wake Forest.
Yes.
And then you guys got married in October of 1968. Can you tell me
June 68.
Oh, June of 1968. Okay. Can you tell me the story of how you guys met?
Oh, that's a very interesting story. I told this to my daughter the other couple of weeks ago, and then she immediately contacted the Rice University, say we got some story to share. Okay, in 1967, my wife got a very good scholarship from the Lee Foundation from New York, and she was the #1 student at the Graduate School of National Taiwan University. She got the Lee Foundation, and she ended up going to Wake Forest University to study for her first master degree in English. And she came in September, the only Chinese girl on campus. There are 14 Chinese boys. At that time, I was working in the Bowman Grade School of Medicine. And it's about 4 miles away from the campus. And I just go visit the campus from time to time to visit some of the old friends and talk about this Chinese girl from Taiwan. So I received a lot of good reports about her, but I didn't get to date her until 2 months later, probably late October, yeah.
So
And then I figured out there got to be a way to be able to date her. So I look at the Bible, see what Jesus said. And Jesus said, where your money is, it's where your heart is. That means if Marion's money is in my pocket, her heart would be in my pocket, right? So I went to the library, looked her up. I say, hey, and I ran out of money. I don't get paid from the medical school until the end of the month. So let me borrow $100. She looked at me and said, oh no, it's too much money. I say, well, I'll pay you back in two weeks after I get paid. And she said, okay, let me go back and check with my roommate, Caroline Snyder, see what she thinks, and come back tomorrow. So the day after that, I went to the library and talked to her again. She said, well, after I talked to Caroline, she said, at most, I can let you borrow 50. I said, okay, I'll borrow $50. And then she write notes, long notes, and I have to sign my name to get that $50 to borrow from her, and promise that I would definitely return her the $50 after I get paid. So I took the money. After 2 weeks, I went to the library, look her up, and I say, since you're so kind, let me borrow $50. Let me take you out for lunch, for dinner, and now return you the money. And since the money is in my pocket, so she agreed to go out with me to go eat dinner at one of the best restaurants in Winston-Salem. And from then on, we start dating.
Yeah, so what was your dating experience like, and how did you know when you guys got married that you had found the right person?
I have heard a lot of good reports about Marion since she arrived at campus from all the boys on campus. And also somehow I was determined to get to know her, and I just feel this is the right guy, the right person in the first sight. I don't have to have a second thought. So, well, somehow it was a romantic dating experience. And we had a real good time because Wake Forest is situated in a very beautiful environment. The garden, they call the Renew the Garden, donated by the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, is very beautiful. And that's our favorite place to go to visit during our dating time. So I was the only boy that has the Mustang 289 V8 automatic. And I was able to take her to all the places I want to in the Winston-Salem and also in the vicinities. And the dating experience was very, very good. I still, from time to time, to reminisce and to think about those good old days. Yes. In fact, I have all kinds of PowerPoints and pictures all collected and saved in my computer.
I saw the PowerPoint that you sent us. It was very, very cute. Yeah. And what was the wedding like between?
The wedding was completely arranged by the women of the church. At that time, Norwood Baptist Church, as they call it WMU, Woman Mission Union. They have all the ladies, they're doing the missionary work, and they were very kind to me. They arranged the wedding reception, take care of everything. And we have host families, took care of all the wedding parties, the bridesmaids and the maid of honor and all that. So everything was free. I didn't pay a dime. They were very nice to me. So everything was arranged. Even the wedding cake was pre-arranged. Everything was arranged.
That's really nice.
Yeah, they're extremely nice.
Yeah. What did you do after you graduated from Wake Forest?
After I graduated from Wake Forest, I had I-20, so I was unable to work. I must stay in school or have related to school somehow. First, I went to work in Bowman Gray School of Medicine as a programmer, because the early day, very few people can write computer program. I started learning computer programming in 1962. So by the time I graduated from Wake Forest, 63 already. So I was able to get a programming job at the medical school. They only pay me by hour, $2.25 per hour. But at that time, it was pretty good income because I had very little expenditure. And then in the summer of 1965, there was a teacher from Virginia to go to Bowman Gray to do the summer work. He told me about community colleges in Virginia. They need teachers, especially teachers of mathematics and chemistry. Very few teachers can teach both subjects. And I happened to be double major in chemistry and mathematics. And I asked that teacher to introduce me, line me up with one of the community college in Roanoke, Virginia. So immediately I was hired. So I went up to Virginia. I taught there for 2 years in Virginia, West Virginia. The community college really need me. So I start with a part-time lecturer, end up with the full-time faculty, and the principal of the school helped me to get a green card, we call it permanent resident status from the immigration office. So in 1966, I was able to get a permanent residence and also work full-time for the community college. But in 1967, I also I decided to go back to Winston-Salem to finish my master's degree thesis to complete my degree. So I left Virginia. I returned back to Wake Forest University and get a very good programming job again at the medical school. At that time, I used a Fortran programming, doing the medical research. They call it tumor registry on cancer research in the school of Bowman Gray School of Medicine. I was paid very well. And that was in the summer of 1967, just a few months before Marion came to Winston-Salem. I was working at Bowman Gray. And at that time, I already have completed my thesis and waiting for graduation. But I still visit the campus from time to time to get in touch with the Chinese friends. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So did you do a PhD after you graduated or you got your master's?
Okay, my second master's degree is computer science at the University of Maryland. I got married in 1968, and my wife said, "You are so good at computer, you could get a PhD degree, continue on." And I said, "Okay." So I applied University of Maryland. They gave me a very good assistantship. So I went to the computer center of University of Maryland, and the system at the University of Maryland's UNIVAC 1100 computer with Exec8 operating system and the DMS 1100 database management system. Everything is exactly the same as what they use now here in Johnson Space Center, identical. So I learned to use the computer, use the operating system, use all the software, and help the admission office at the University of Maryland to develop a student information database. And after I got my master's degree, I was working on my PhD degree, and Lockheed Electronics put out a very big ad on the bulletin board. They want to find somebody like me with the experience with the UNIVAC computer, with all these software. And I found, hey, that's interesting. At that time, my wife was not feeling very well with the allergy in Maryland. She wanted to get out of there. And I was in the middle of my thesis. But anyway, she wanted me to leave the place. I said, okay, let me talk to the people in Lockheed. And then I sent them a postcard. In a couple of days, it called me long distance from Houston to College Park, Maryland. They want to invite me down here for an interview. So in 1973, I came down here for an interview. We talked about the computer system for about 45 minutes. Immediately made me an offer with so much money for the poor graduate student. I just couldn't refuse. Now, even I get 2 PhD degrees, I still couldn't get that kind of money. They really need me because Building 12 used the computer systems exactly the same as I am working on at the University of Maryland up in the Maryland, College Park. So they made me a very attractive offer. So I called my wife and said, what are we going to do? Give me so much money. And we need money to buy a house. And also, at that time, I already have 2 kids. My son is 3 and my daughter is 1.5. And my wife wanted to get out of College Park. I said, okay, let's give up the PhD for now, do it later, and accept the job. So we moved down to Houston, I think a couple of days before Labor Day, came down to Houston. And I've been in Houston ever since then.
Wow. Yeah. So were you ever able to finish your thesis, your PhD thesis?
No, I never, because I was so much involved in the church. Other than working for NASA, all my time is in the Chinese church.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah. So when you were in at the University of Maryland, what did your kids and your wife do while you
My
were doing
wife get her second master's degree in the library science, specialized in children literature. So they read the children's book to my son and my daughter. And my son was only 3, my daughter's only 1. So my wife stay home and keep an eye on them.
Mm. Yeah. So when you first moved to Houston, what was your experience like? What did the city look like back then?
Well, at that time, Houston wasn't as big as it is right now.
Mhm.
And Clear City is about 30 miles away from downtown. So I practically live in Clear City. I go downtown, we go to the Jones Hall and to the theater district to attend the concerts and the drama, watch the drama. But most of the time I'm in Clear Lake City. But other than the Johnson Space Center, there's not much in Clear Lake City at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Very remote. And later on, I start seeing the buildings. After building, residential areas start to develop. Back in the 70s, NASA was developing the shuttle program. So a lot of scientists moved in. I bought my first house in 1974 for $31,000. And then after 3.5 years, it was appreciated to $52,000. I sold the house and collected $20,000 of equity and bought me this 2-story house I'm living in right now in Middlebrook. So I'm doing very well financially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you ever get a chance to visit the Chinatown that was in downtown Houston?
And when I first came, the Chinatown was not in the current location. It is in the downtown area near the Highway 59. And the old Chinatown is kind of small and only have a few grocery stores and a few restaurants. But that was the only thing we had at that time. But later on in the Bel Air area, they developed a very large Chinatown. And so we start to go to the new Chinatown, and the old Chinatown gradually become a Vietnamese town. Most of Vietnamese people move in there.
Let's see. Is that where you would go get your groceries often in the old Chinatown?
Before the COVID-19, I go there every week because my son lived in Bunker Hill on the other side of the Chinatown.
Mhm.
I'll bring my wife to my son's home to help with the grandchildren on Monday. I go to Chinatown to play chess and eat in the restaurants every week for 12 years until the COVID-19, and then I stopped going there.
Yeah. What about in the 1970s? Would your family like buy groceries in Clear Lake or go to the
Well,
Chinatown?
in the 70s, there's also a Chinese grocery store called Hong Kong in the Frenchwood area. I think it's Scottsdale area. We go there because it's closer. But once in a while, we go to Chinatown. It's a little bit distance over there. The Chinese restaurants are really good in the new Chinatown. So from time to time, we go there to Yam Cha. Yam Cha means eat the dim sum. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So what was it like to work for Lockheed? Did you enjoy it? And how many years did you work for them?
I worked for Lockheed for about 3.5 years, and I was in a very high position. And after that, Lockheed lost the contract, and I went to Philco Ford for 1 year, and then Computer Science Corporation got the project. They got a project from Lockheed, and they're looking for some guy like me who know the operating system, know the UNIVAC system, know the database management system. So they make me an offer as a supervisor. I'm the first Chinese supervisor. I was supervising 7 programmers at Computer Science Corporation. I worked there for a few years, and I also get a part-time job teaching at night, teaching database management in University of Houston Clear Lake campus in the evening. All my lecture room was all filled up with Chinese and foreign students who want to learn computer. So I was very welcomed every time I go to the campus in the, they call it in the bio building at that time. And I worked for Computer Science Corporation for a couple of years. In 1980, Single-Link company, they hired me as a senior system analyst, and I was the staff to the director of the shuttle program. Way up there, it's very high position with very high pay, and because I specialized in simulation when I was in in graduate school in Maryland. Single-Link's doing simulation, shuttle simulation, visual simulation. So I was hired by the upper management. I was the only Chinese in the upper management in 1981. And at that time, I already had my citizenship. So I was able to run on the top secret shuttle program.
That's nice. And so what did you do after that up until retirement?
Well, as I told you, I get very much involved in Houston Chinese Church and Click Chinese Church, and one of the 3 founders of the Click Chinese Church in 1981. And after I went to several missionary journeys, I have 6 missionary journeys. I decided to retire at the end of 1997. I retired from the computer work and then go to the Dallas Theological Seminary to get my 3rd master degree in biblical studies. And again, I graduated with honor, and I spent a lot of time with the Bible. And in 2001, I was ordained as the elder of the church. And I really enjoy working in the church environment, enjoy the missionary journeys. The first time I went to a missionary journey in 1992 to mainland China. And then after that, in 1997, I went to Indonesia in Java. I passed by Singapore to Java, Indonesia, and I went to Brazil twice in Nova Iguazu, and I went to Taiwan and worked with the minority group in the mountain one time, and I also went to uh, Jim, Jimmy University in Fukin. They invited me to teach Oracle, but they're in the computer center. So I brought my laptop, and the computer center just took my laptop and just copy everything, because at that time they didn't know anything about Oracle, the computer software. And I gave them free lecture, 12 free lectures. I was treated like a king because they were so nice to me. You know, you want me to go back and lecture some more. They have people, you know, eating with me. Their feast, the round table. They get the professor to eat with me, and I have very good accommodation. Also, they have the very beautiful accommodation place for the visitors from the United States. Yeah. Just a lot of fun.
It sounds really fun.
Yes.
So you have two children, Sue and Robert?
Yeah, I have a son, Robert Kwok. You can probably go to Google and Google Kwok and Daniel and know about his magnificent, successful law firm. He has about 50 employees, lawyers, and he had thousands of cases, very successful trial lawyer. And my daughter, Susan, she has her own real estate company. They're all in Houston, yeah. My son has 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl, and my daughter has 3 boys. They're all very athletic.
When were your children born, and why did you decide to have children at that time?
Well, I got married in June 1968, and my wife was pregnant right away. And Robert was born at the end of February 1969. Who wanted to have children? So I didn't have any second thought. My daughter was born in Silver Spring, Maryland. So that was very natural.
So what did you like most about having children, and what was the most challenging part?
The most challenging part is that I was able to spend time with them while they're growing up, from the time they're a baby all the way up to when they well, not just teenager, also going into graduate school. I spent a lot of time with my son, a lot of time with my daughter, especially my son. At that time, when my son was a baby, I was the one that took care of him. I changed the diapers, and I have to feed her and all that, because there's no help. And Robert and I had a very, very intimate, very close relationship. I read some books about how to raise children, and so all the way along, when he was growing up, I spent a lot of time with Robert. And Susan is the second one, and my wife spent more time with her than I am. But both of them, you know, we go to all the concerts, all the athletic football games. My son's a football player. My daughter is a basketball, volleyball player. We go to all the games. And we spend a lot of time with them. And also they are very much involved in the youth group in the church too.
So your children went to Chinese school at Nassau Bay Baptist Church.
Yes.
What inspired you to enroll your children in this Chinese school?
Well, at that time, Clinic City has a Chinese school already. We're not the original founder of the Chinese school, but the school used the facility of the Nassau Bay Baptist Church. And we just brought the children over there to attend the Chinese school. But only a couple of years, my wife became the principal of the Chinese school, and she ran the school.
You also sent a picture of your family in an amusement park in Texas. Um, and it was like an annual trip to the amusement park. When did this tradition start, and what fun rides does your family go
Well,
on?
the tradition start ever since I get married. At least once a year, we have a family vacation every year. At least one picture per year for the album. Sometimes use it for Christmas cards. So we start collecting the best picture of the year since 1967, when I first started dating my wife, and the first year, second year on until now. So every year we have a collection of pictures, and sometimes we select the best one for the Christmas card.
So you also taught computer science at the University of Houston. And so what did you enjoy most about teaching?
I really love teaching. When I was in Roanoke, Virginia, I taught at a community college. I taught chemistry and I taught mathematics. And I always loved math and chemistry since I was in high school. And as a professor of the subjects, I enjoy talking to those students. They get so confused a lot of times, especially in the chemistry lab. One time my lab assistant, he read the menu, and the menu was misprinted. Instead of using 0.1 gram of a chemical, and he used 1 gram of chemical, and end up with a lot of precipitations. And people were scared. What happened? Yeah, because it was misprinted on the menu. Teaching is a lot of fun. I enjoy teaching. I teach Sunday school. I teach in fact, I was in charge of youth group when my children were teenagers in the church. It's fun to work with the young people.
You were also a section supervisor at the Computer Science Corporation.
Yes,
Can you talk a bit more about this position and your role?
I have to supervise the programmers because they don't know anything about the project. The project was an old project I used to work on at Lockheed. So I have to tell them what to do and what kind of program they need to do. If they cannot do it, I'll help them to do it because I know the system very well. And to supervise some people, sometimes very hard. Is if they don't know what to do, they don't not qualified. So Computer Science Corporation is very smart to find somebody who really know how to do it. If the programmer failed to do it, I'll be the one that help him to finish it up on time. So I'm kind of like coaching them.
That's great. So how were you first introduced to Christianity?
I was introduced to Christianity when I was 4 or 5 years old in kindergarten. And in the elementary school is Baptist elementary school called Ling Ying, and they have weekly gathering for the teachers to go up to and tell stories about the Bibles. and preaching is Southern Baptist high school. We have religious class, religion class. And in fact, I was taught by a couple American Baptist missionaries from the United States. I learned the Bible when I was in high school. I memorized a lot of stuff when I was in high school. And Christianity is a very, very logical and a very, to me, is a very real and also very practical religion. According to my professor at the Dallas Theological Seminary, is one of the most logical theology you can come up with. Because of the knowledge in the Bible, I have the courage to come to the United States by myself. Psalm 23 verse 1, the Lord's my shepherd. I will lack of nothing, have everything. And that really helped me for the last 60 some years when I don't know what to do, don't have anything, I'll pray, and somehow God just opened the door, God just provide, everything is just a-okay. So it's a lifelong experience. I think Christianity is the key to my success and also the key for all the blessings I have for me, my family, and my grandchildren.
Yeah. So when you were first introduced when you're like 4 or 5, was the rest of your family also Christian, like your
No,
grandparents?
I'm the only one in the family that was exposed to Christianity.
Yeah. Did they eventually become Christians or?
No,
Mm.
they are so far away, and I think my second sister, she might be exposed to some of the Bible teaching when she was in elementary school. That we went to the same elementary school.
I see. Yeah. And what about your wife? When did she become a Christian?
She went to Norwood Baptist Church with me since we start dating every Sunday. And then a year after we went to University of Maryland, she was baptized in the First Baptist Church of Washington. Yeah.
I see. And so when you first moved to the US, did you immediately find a church to go to?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And what about
I didn't go find the church. The church people come find me.
Oh, that's good. And then, so you mentioned that you went to Houston Chinese Church. So when did you first go to Houston Chinese Church? And how did you hear about that?
When I first came to Houston, there's only one Chinese church called the Chinese Baptist Church. It's in downtown Lama Street, Lamar, Lama Street, downtown Houston. At that time, most of them speak Cantonese. And I also speak Cantonese because from Hong Kong. And a group of students from Taiwan, they speak Mandarin. And they kind of hard to fit into the Cantonese environment. So they borrowed the facility of the church to have the Bible study in Mandarin. And I got to know those Mandarin speaking people from Taiwan because my wife is from Taiwan. I met them probably in Chinatown or somewhere. And they would invite us to attend a Bible study. And so I got to spend time with them in two places. One is the Saint Simon Baptist Church. Saint Simon Baptist Church is very strong at the foreign mission. They they provide the Chinese students places to do Bible study, and Sagemont is close to Clear Lake City. And in downtown, I go there once a while at that time. In 1975, this group of people, they started Houston Chinese Church. And the Second Baptist Church in South Main Baptist Church, South Main Baptist Church allowed us to use the basketball court to start our worship service. And I was one of the original member in 1975. And then on, we hired Chinese pastors, and subsequently, we have a large congregation. I was able to build a church in South Main near the Bellway 8. And in 1979, I became a deacon of the church in charge of the work in Clear Lake City. And for about 4 years, it's called the Clear Lake City Fellowship. And I borrowed the church building from first is Clear Lake Baptist Church for 3 months, and then moved to Nassau Bay Baptist Church in Nassau Bay. In 1981, then we set up the Clear Lake Chinese Church. And in 1983, we moved out of the church and went to a Clear Lake Bible Church for 1 year. In 1984, we were in Clear Lake Bible Church. In 1985, we bought our own church building.
Good. So was Sagemont Baptist Church also predominantly Chinese, or was it just like a normal church?
It's American church.
I see. Okay, cool. And so how were the services back then, like at the very beginning of HCC? How many people went? How big was it?
We just use a basketball court.
Right.
I would say it's about 100 people at the basketball court.
Yeah.
In fact, I was the interpreter for the pastor.
That's cool. Do you still like know the founders of HCC?
I knew all of them because we started out from nothing.
Right. Yeah. Cool. And I think the basketball court is still there today.
Oh yeah.
I think so. Yeah. And then they expanded it to become a bigger church. So that's cool. So when or why did you decide to build up the Clear Lake Church?
Well, I was in charge of the ministry in Clear Lake City. So as a deacon of the Houston Chinese Church, every week, all the money, all the offering will be collected and delivered to downtown to Houston Chinese Church, and end up that there's no money, there's nothing here to develop the church. And later on, we start to have a lot of people coming into Clear Lake City, and the Chinese church the fellowship started to grow bigger and bigger. It's over 100 people. And some of the co-workers, they said, we can have enough people to start a church here. One of the elder from Wisconsin, he came down here, he said, well, we can start a church that we have enough manpower. So I make a proposal to the council of the Houston Chinese Church. I say our co-workers meeting decided that we're going to start a church in Clear Lake City with their permission. So we started the church. And at that time, we still don't have any facility. We're still using the Nassau Bay Baptist Church. They have very beautiful chapel. We just use a chapel.
Cool. And so how did you first get the funding for Clear Lake?
Offering.
I see. Through the members of HCC?
No.
Oh.
The offering in Clear Lake City is very, very, how do you say, substantial, a lot. So we are very rich.
Yeah. So I think HCC also helped plant CLCC. So what was your role in that whole process, I guess?
No, HCC is in downtown. I have to lead the whole church in Clear Lake. We started with 17 people.
Mm.
And we have, they call co-workers meetings. Every month we have a large meeting from a big circle. And we decided how to attract people, visitation, and how do we expand our ministry in Clear Lake City. I have to lead them.
Yeah. And how did you find the first pastor at Clear Lake?
The first pastor is Franklin Lee. He was a pastor at Houston Chinese Church.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I think we saw that you were ordained as a lifetime elder.
Yes.
What does that exactly mean? And what are your like responsibilities as an elder?
I have a whole article about my duty in the church. For example, visitation, caring, attending all the co-workers meeting, all the council meeting, making all the major decisions, visit all the newcomers, people in the hospital,
Mhm.
wedding, funeral service, you name it, I have to do it.
Yeah. Cool. And so how long does an elder term usually last? So what does it mean to be a lifetime elder?
Once you ordain, you ordain.
Okay. And how often does the church ordain a lifetime elder?
In 2001, we ordained 2 elders, me and Elder Yuan. And later on, we ordained an American elder, William Staten. That's all.
Cool. So you said that Clear Lake started with 17 people. How many people go there now?
Oh, I'll say around 150.
That's great. And when did you see the most growth in the congregation?
Well, I go up and down, up and down. When you have a good pastor and it's going up and the pastor go away, it will drop, and so up and down, up and down. So I would say the best years we reach about 200 adults,
Great.
and maybe 100 kids, yeah,
Mm.
teenagers. Yeah. We have a one-hour program now because we have the new family education building. So we have a one-hour program that attracted a little bit more people.
Yeah. And do you guys have an English and Chinese congregation or just Chinese?
We have English congregation, we have Chinese congregation. In the Chinese congregation, we have the Cantonese people, we have the Mandarin people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And which congregation is bigger?
Or Chinese.
I see. Cool. And what about the youth? How big is that?
It's going up and down again. For one time, the youth group was very big. Now it's shrinking. It depends on the pastor and also depend upon the leaders of the youth group. So now it's not that big because of the COVID-19. A lot of people not going to church yet.
And what are some major changes that you've seen at Clear Lake? Like
Buildings after buildings after buildings everywhere, apartments, a house, a lot of grassland now become shopping centers. So really blooming.
Yeah. What about at the church?
Well, the church, not much change. We just keep expanding as we need to have Sunday school, and we expand the building, and we need a larger parking lot to accommodate all the cars, and we have to build new parking lot, and then we need to Awana program. We need to large auditoriums. We build a family activity center. So as we need something, we start to expand the church about 4 or 5 times. Now we get the whole block. We bought the house in the corner, we tear it down, make a parking lot, and we also build a large family activity centers, and we can Awana program. We have the large, they call it concerts, concerts.
That's great. Yeah, and how do most of the congregants hear about Clear Lake? Is it just because they live in the area, or do people like drive out to go?
Most of in the neighborhood. Clear City is next to Friendswood, the Lake City, close enough to Galveston. So we have some people from Galveston to come to worship. They work in the UTMB, the medical school in the Galveston. Some of them, they moved to Clear City because of they call it the high school system, Clear Creek Independent School District. So the families from Galveston, they prefer to live in Clear Lake and then commute to work, have their children to study at Clear Lake City. So we have a lot of people from Galveston and Lake City.
Cool. And what do you think the church will look like in the future? Do you think it'll grow more, or do you think the numbers will stay about the same?
My guess is going to stay the same.
Yeah. And what about like the ratio of Chinese to English congregants? Do you think English congregation will grow faster than Chinese congregation? Maybe become bigger?
I hope so, because we have a very nice Chinese pastor from WXCC, West Houston Chinese Church, Alan Chai. Alan Chai used to work with Pastor Xu in the West, the WXCC, and Pastor Chai is a very good preacher, and I think he can do a very good job in Clear Lake. I'm so pleased he come to help us. So if he stay for the next 5 years, I could see the potential.
Is he the English pastor?
Yes.
Okay, I see. Cool. And so what change do you hope to see at Clear Lake Chinese Church?
Well, I hope they have new elders, because I retired at the end of last year. I'm 80 years old, and I don't want to work too hard. I need to rest and spend more time with the Bible. So far, we have no new elder. Maybe we have some next year. I don't know.
So currently there's been kind of a escalated anti-Asian environment because of COVID. Have you been targeted personally, or do you know about other people that have been negatively affected?
No.
All right. So has the church kind of been a support system during like this time during COVID?
Well, the church is not doing very much because of the COVID. Now we use a Zoom meeting like we are having it right now every week for Sunday worship. And different fellowship group and small group. They also use a Zoom. So it's nothing like in-person gathering. It's just like what we're doing now, just talking to the screen.
And I guess, do you have a vision of how you want to lead the rest of your life into the future and where you want to be?
Me, I kind of enjoy writing. I hope to be able to write a book because of all these interesting stories and adventures I have experienced. And I do have a lot of material in my computer that I need to go through it, the pictures, the PowerPoints, and the stories, and what goes on in the last 60 some years since I came to this country. Time to write, start to write. So this interview is interesting because I forced myself to write down something in the old time for you so that when we get on the screen, I have something to share.
We really appreciate that. Yeah.
A lot of this has come from memory, you know, but a lot of it's from my computer files. Some of the old pictures are really from the computer file back in the 60s. Yeah. I do have a lot of stories. Would you like to listen to a story about my 3 cars, the first 3 cars? My first car is a Jeep Willys, $100. I bought $100 from a taxi driver in Atlanta, Georgia. And I told him, I say, I'll buy your car. At that time, I was working in a Chinese restaurant as a waiter. I'll buy your car if you take me to take the road test in the driver in the public safety place. And say, it's okay. So I went to the driver training school 4 times and paid them $35 per hour. At that time, it's a lot of money. And then I passed it, and then I got a car. At that time, I was in Atlanta, Georgia during the summer. I drove that car at the end of the summer from Atlanta, Georgia up to Winston-Salem. Took 8 hours because every couple hours I stopped, had to put a quart of oil into the engine and let it cool down and continue driving. Took 8 hours to drive up to Winston-Salem. And I got a job at Bowman Gray School of Medicine as a programmer. And I bought a 4-cylinder French Renault second car, $250. And I was able to drive the car all around North Carolina and South Carolina. And I also drove it to Roanoke, Virginia, through the mountain road. And then when I went to Roanoke, Virginia, I have to commute between Roanoke Valley and Virginia Polytech Institute in Blacksburg, Virginia, because I was in the student visa. I need to be in the graduate school. So in the middle, there's a Christiansburg Mountain. So I have to get a good car so I can go up the Christiansburg Mountain to the other side and to Blacksburg. And I went to the largest Ford Motor Company in Roanoke, Virginia. And I saw a beautiful dark green Mustang, brand new in the showroom. It was a rainy day, you know. And I told the salesman, I want to test driving this car. He said, okay. I said, ask people to open up the big gates. I drove it out to Roanoke, you know, all over the places, mud all over the place, all over the car, and I went back to the showroom. I said, okay, I'm gonna buy this car. How much? $2,800. Oh, no problem. And I just asked Colonial National Bank to finance it. So I traded in my Renault, the 4-cylinder car, because you cannot climb the Christiansburg Mountain, for that brand new Mustang 289 V8 automatic. And the bank pay for it. I just pay installment. I got a car. I was able to drive between Roanoke, past Christiansburg Mountain to Blacksburg, Virginia, took my graduate course and come back and teach chemistry and mathematics and I go back and forth for 2 years. And then finally got my green card, permanent resident status, because I had the Mustang. I was able to go to the places I need to go to maintain my I-20 and also make money to survive. And I also drove the Mustang from Virginia back to Winston-Salem to Wake Forest. And because I'm the only guy in the whole campus get a car, it's a brand new car, so make me easier to get a date with my wife. So the Mustang helped a lot, yeah. So it's very interesting. In this country, you can start out with zero. When I went to Roanoke, Virginia, I had nothing. And I was able to borrow money to live for 3 months, to get paid after 3 months from the community college. I have zero. When I walk into Ford Motor Company, I bought a brand new Mustang and paid by the bank, you know, go by installment. So because of all this experience, I said, you can survive in any situation. With $0, you can go through anything if you have the Christian belief. And when I run out of way of continuation, run out of money, run out of this, run out of that, I just pray and things just happen, just open up. It's very interesting. I told a lot of stories in my sermons. I preach all over the places and told them all about what happened in the last 60 years. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share with you one of those stories, because I have many of those in my computer. And I'm going to send you some articles too.
Yeah, for sure. We would definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that was all of my questions. I don't know if Helen had any more.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, I still have some more stories to tell you. You
Yeah.
have time for more stories? Or you want to stop?
No, I think you can. Yeah, you can tell your stories.
Okay, let me think of one good story. When we tried to buy Clear Lake Chinese Church a building, and we didn't have any money to do the down payment. So we told the Houston Chinese Church that we need money to do the down payment and borrow money from the bank to buy the building, the building that we have right now at Webster. And the week before the closing, we got enough money, most of it from Houston Chinese Church. The pastor came over and gave us a large sum of money. And one of our deacon, he happened to be a friend of a lady in the Moody National Bank in Galveston, agreed to make us a building loan. And so we bought the building from the Grace Community Church in Webster. At the time, that building was very small, only have a sanctuary and a few classrooms, and only a few months it's all filled or packed with people and no place to eat lunch. We had to stand there to eat. And so the Pastor Chi from Macau, he said, it's time for expansion. Expansion costs money. And the interesting part is I'm never afraid of borrowing money. I've been borrowing money ever since. So in the council meeting, I say, Father Sun, you're from the building committee. So you're just in charge of the expansion project. I'm responsible for money. I say, where do you get the money? I said, I know I can get the money. From 1977, every Monday morning, 10 o'clock, I bring a lot of money across the street from Single Link to the small bank across Bay Area Boulevard, deposit the weekly offering. For 4 or 5 years, the banker, he always come out and greet me because I was in high position. I put on a 3-piece suit and brought in a lot of money to the bank. His name is Holland. Mr. Holland always, they have time for coffee. Do you have any needs? Church need any money? I say, no, we got plenty of money. But in 1988, I went in there. I said, Mr. Holland, I got something to talk with you because my church need money. He said, okay, let's have some coffee and then let's go into my office and talk. So we drink coffee and went to his office to talk. He said, how much money do you need? I say, I need $300,000. $360,000. Oh, no problem. What do you need? Just come and get it. It's that easy. So we pay off multinational bank, and then we have enough money to expand our building with all the Sunday schools and 2 parking lots. And that's the first expansion. And after that, we decided to buy the house in the corner of the block. There are 2 houses in the block. One house in the corner and one in the church. We bought that house, we tear it down, flatten it. We built a long parking lot. I'll show you the PowerPoint later on. And reserve a piece of land for the Family Activity Center. And then in 2011, we decided we need to build a Family Activity Center without going to the bank to borrow money. We raised the money ourselves. And sure thing, it's over $1 million. So somehow God just provided enough money for us to build a whole Family Activity Center. And she had money left over. So the building projects really is a testimony for the church. People over there, they really love the church. They're willing to contribute, to offer, to work for it, to donate money. So the Christian religion is very important to me. I share with you these stories about the church building. There are other stories I can share with you later on, but today I think we already use up a lot of time. Unless you have any more questions, we can close the Zoom meeting if you like.
Thank you so much for sharing
Okay.
with us. We will keep in touch with you over email. We will have someone transcribe this
Okay.
recording